Hi there, welcome back or welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth, whatever the case may be for you. I am Anna Pirelli. Today's video is actually on friendships. It's going to be a series because it's once again become very long. And this is about establishing, we're going to be focusing on identifying who are our friends, who are the friends to hold on to, who we have as friends, but we keep at arm's distance, that kind of thing. Once again, people that are watching this video, they're accessing information that I gain through not only my life and personal experience, but also through my studies at university in social work and counselling. So I do recommend that if this is a content or subject that is interesting to you, that you do it in bite-sized pieces, because while I'm delivering this content, I actually have spent hours at uni. When we talk about things like friendships and trust and relationship building and all of that, we're talking about content where we have to look very deeply at it, and it can take hours for us to do it. So I would say, in fairness, this is why I've broken the video down, is the content I'm giving you today, the video runs for about an hour at the most. But to actually activate the knowledge and the information that you're giving, you probably need to give yourself a week to process it. And that's because we all have stuff to do during our daily living. And you're not necessarily going to be able to sit there for 8 hours solidly and unpack it. So in a week's time, I'll load the next part of the video, or of the series rather. In this specific video, we're actually going to be looking at the definitions of a friendship to help us identify what do we expect from our friends, what do we need from our friends, what would we like from our friends, and to be able to tell the difference. But the other thing that we're going to do is look at, before we get into that, we're going to look at empowerment, because ideally we want our friendships and associations to be empowering as opposed to disempowering. And at the moment, I've realised that the word empowerment is really being overused and quite often misused within the media at best, if not elsewhere. So to gain understanding about what empowerment actually means, that is covered in the next slide. So let's move on without further ado. So as a social worker, everything that I do is about empowerment, that is, empowering individuals collectively to live well through the provision of information and strategy to improve their collective pool of information and wisdom, if you like, and enhance their ability to make healthier choices and decisions. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the word empowerment is now a catch cry across social media, with people not actually really knowing what it means. You know, you keep seeing these things like, oh, I'm an empowerment coach. Well, really? What does that look like? You know, as words folks, ask them, when you hear people turn around, certainly if you're in conversation with them and they say, I'm an empowerment coach, ask them, well, how do you empower people? You know, what does the word empowerment mean to you? Is that about you stroking their ego and telling them they're fabulous, even if they're not? Or do you tell people to do things your way because you know what's best for them, right? Now, if somebody's calling themselves an empowerment coach and they're doing either of those things, one is fibbing to you to build your ego up without providing you with improvement strategies, right? They're an enabler. They're not an empowerer, they are enablers, right? And if they are telling you that you need to do things their way because they know best, well, then they're a dictator as far as I'm concerned. They're certainly not an empowerment coach. So to understand empowerment, let's take a look at empowerment theory, because it's really important in this day and time, if you like, for each of us to understand when we're making our decisions, and as part of discerning which friends or friendships have value to us, have meaning to us, who to hold on to and who to let go, or who to keep at arm's length and not let them into our inner circle. So basically, empowerment is about helping us to be the best version of ourselves. And not only that, just remember, a really good friend, you have to be one to have one. So the whole reflecting on empowerment theory gives us an opportunity to reflect on, one, how good a friend are we, and what type of friends do we want to have close to us. So let's take a look at empowerment theory now. So, of course, as a social worker, I had to study empowerment theory, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But once again, everything that I put up here, they're really just introductions, they're taste tests, and you can do your own research on anything I put up here. But anyway, empowerment theory was initially the product of a social scientist and was referring to the interconnectedness across the community and the impacts on health, not only of the society, but also of the individuals within the society. So this is because, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that if we're talking about the wider community, then it's made up of individuals. And that if individuals are not well, then you end up with an unwell wider community, and then you end up with an unwell, more expansive social structure, if you like. So anyway, the theory is about doing research because, as we've discussed in previous slides, unless the scientists do research and can provide statistical numbers saying, well, we've discovered that people that are oppressed for whatever or marginalised experience poorer health outcomes, it gets poo-pooed by the politicians, I guess is the best way of doing it. So they do research on the theories and then they come up with the numbers. So this is where empowerment theory came from. So what have I got in my notes? So for decades, social scientists and health professionals have definitely known that mental illness and psychological distress is linked to poor overall health, and spiritual energy workers will tell you this as well. And so forth. So when we talk about psychological empowerment, and this is what we bring into what they call the biopsychosocial methods of health, and particularly mental health, it's referring to the fact that there is this interconnectedness within each of us as individuals that either supports or interrupts our functioning. And if we don't fix the situation for an individual, I say the situation because let's not be personal and say the problems within a person, because they're reflective quite often of what's going on outside. It's all interactive. I'll get caught up in this. So I will go back to what we're talking about with empowerment theory in the psychosocial models of health and wellbeing and treatments is when they will do strength-based type training. And I am going somewhere with this, bear with me. Right? A person is considered to be empowered when they know their strengths, their needs, their vulnerabilities, and the barriers to them feeling empowered, right? Now, remember that there are polarities. If a person is not feeling empowered, then they're more likely, well, they obviously will be feeling powerless about what's happening in their life. So the scientists have worked out that interpersonal relationships, that is, the way you interact with your family members, your friends, your work colleagues, and just people across the community in general, can impact on your own internal functioning, the way we think, the way we behave, and the way we respond emotionally to situations. So I was a bit harsh about rocket scientists coming up with these information, because I think most people know this stuff. It's just referred to within industry as being anecdotal information until you get the statistics attached to it. Sorry, stumbling over my words. So anyway, step 2 of an empowerment is where a person is comfortable to express their needs. This is what I've got here, and their limitations. They know their strengths and vulnerabilities, and they're comfortable to ask for help. Now, if you're really interested in what this looks like, you can Google, there's a strategy, the Outcomes Star tool. Now, actually, I'm going to spend a bit of time on this slide, where you can assess for yourself just where you're at, what your strengths are, and where you need to work. Now, I did have to use the star in my work situation. I found it quite offensive, actually, and insulting to go to my adult clients with a star chart and say, let's, put a number here. But I will admit, because I was working in a psychiatric setting, that the actual exercise in itself is brilliant, especially when it's done in partnership. So the point I'm making here is if you were to use that star and because you've got to look at, how well do I focus on my diet or whatever. Oh, 3 out of 10, When somebody on the outside feeds back on your evaluation, they can turn around and say, well, actually, you know what, you've improved. You were 3 out of 10 4 weeks ago, but you've made changes. So doing it with somebody else helps you to recognize progress. And this is the whole participation, and it also helps you determine look, I've got to be careful. I don't want to make this a really long slide, but one of the clients I was working with, I was told I needed to force her to do something. Without going into all the details, I found that the directive was very, very disrespectful to the person that I was the key worker for. And so rather than go back and telling her, you will do this and you will do that, I actually spoke to her. I used the empowerment theory because obviously that's social. Well, look, I think actually humanitarian says that's not what you do to people. But anyway, I went back to her and said to her, look, we need to fix this problem. The problem was actually personal hygiene. And I was like, so what do you suggest we do about this? Because ideally, I just gave her the facts. I said, ideally, you need to have a minimum. We all need a minimum of a 3-minute shower. So how are we going to work around this? She was a very unwell person. So where I'm going with this is we discussed it. That's that freedom of expression. We talked about potential solutions to build the competency through skills and strategy. We agreed, right? So this is participation, rights and responsibilities. We agreed that we would work up to a 3-minute shower, but we would start at 30 seconds. We also agreed that I would sit outside the bathroom door doing a countdown and cheering her on, basically, 30 seconds counting down, all of this stuff. I'm doing all of this. And then by the time, it was actually incredible because by the time we broke it through to, I think, the third shower, we were still agreeing 30 seconds. But every time she got under it, she actually, once she was under, she went longer. So it didn't take us very long to get her to a 2-minute shower. So then, of course, you celebrate. That's like, oh my God, see how amazing you are? You thought you could only do 30 seconds, but you can actually do 2. So this is what empowerment theory in practice looks like. And when we have friends, of course, they're not our therapists, but certainly they're going to support us to achieve our self-identified goals. This is if we're talking about empowerment, and to build our strength and to find our vulnerabilities and to work through those vulnerabilities to find solutions to improve our overall health and well-being. So that's empowerment theory. On to the next slide. So the relevance to empowerment theory and empowerment psycho approaches to our friendship circles is that basically when we talk about having friends, we want to have healthy relationships and healthy friendships. And we all know, without me even discussing who's a good friend and who isn't, immediately you're going to be saying to yourself, oh yes, I do have friends, and friends will either make me feel better or they will make me feel worse. Now, obviously we're going to explore make me feel down the track, but the reality is the ones where you don't feel comfortable or where you feel that these relationships undermine your sense of self, they're potentially not a healthy relationship. That doesn't mean that it can't become a healthy relationship or friendship. It may be able to be, but this whole business of circles helps you to evaluate, where are my friendships at and my relationships right now today? Are they in the healthy? How much of myself should I be revealing to these people? And this kind of thing. Now, Kerry Armstrong makes the point clearly, and I need to make this point clearly here as well, is that people are continually coming in and out of our life. That is life, right? They may be in your inner circle for a little while, they may move out, they may never return to the inner circle, or they may come in and out, right? It just depends on the relationship and the friendship and what's involved in it. And equally, we continue to meet new people throughout the course of our life, and when we meet them, initially we're establishing certain factors about them as to whether or not our relationships, I'm not even talking friendships at this point in time, but whether or not these relationships or associations that we have are healthy and good for us, whether or not we're comfortable with them. And dependent on this new person, they may come closer within to the inner sanctum, or they may actually move out. Just a reminder that this video is made in conjunction with the video that I've done, or the series on setting healthy boundaries in relationships. So this video particularly is to help us define what are the good friendships for us, and who we need to hold on to, and potentially who we need to let go of for our own health and well-being, and how to do it in healthy ways. Okay, so before we can look at where to put a person into a circle, it's very important that we look at what we mean by the word friend. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of definitions now. Because we're using Kerry's circles here, I'll start with her definition. So I've got a couple of slides here dedicated to Kerry's meanings, and just so you know, then I'm going to go into a couple of other definitions, and I'm leading somewhere with this. As always, I'm leading, so just bear with me. Okay, so the first part of Kerry's definition, she says a friend is an unexpected surprise and a gift. They are a companion, someone to talk to. They listen and they laugh with you. They won't let you down. They help you through the rough bits, and they prop you up at times you don't think that you can go on. Okay, fair enough. Let's go on to part 2. She also says a friend will back you up. They won't run you down. They won't talk about you behind your back. They love you and they love your loved ones, and they will never ever take advantage of you or betray your confidence. Okay. She also says that they will keep your innermost secrets safe. They will value your beliefs and dreams, and they will uphold and honour your morals. They understand you and they let you be yourself. Sounds great. So because within this context, and we're looking at the definition of what makes a good friend as part of helping us to evaluate our friendships, I went and I saw some other opinions. Now, Better Up obviously is getting a bit of publicity these days, and I've heard it connected with the word empowerment. So I thought, well, seeing as it's getting this publicity, if you like, through the Invictus Games and the associations with Prince Harry, I would have a look at theirs. So I've actually put the points up here. This is a blog from one of their websites, and I wanted to unpack this with you critically, because I don't see this in any way, shape or form as an empowerment model. In fact, I see their definition as being unhealthy, actually. So I don't know if this blog is reflective of Better Up's ethos or whatever, but we're going to run through it here. The first issues that I see with this description is, and I've copied and pasted this from the website, trustworthiness. All right, that's the first one that jumps out at me. They have your best intentions at heart, and they tell you the truth. Well, I would say, first of all, telling the truth is about being honest. And the other thing is that I'm not sure a good friend has your best intentions at heart. Now, let me unpack this a little bit, okay? Just because somebody has your best intentions at heart does not make them a really good friend, because the reality is, there's that saying, the paths to hell are bathed in good intent, right? Just because a person means well doesn't make them trustworthy, because let's put this into perspective. If you told somebody something and you thought they were a friend and they betrayed your confidence because they thought it was the best thing for you, they've broken your trust. End of story. You will unlikely ever disclose anything personal to them again, because especially if there was a harmful consequence from their breaching the trust, okay? So that's why I'm like, yeah, I think we would remove that trustworthiness. They tell you the truth and they have your best intentions at heart. No, I would say that they actually respect your confidentiality, but that's just me. Empathy. They know intuitively what you feel, right? Oh my God. Okay, so to me, this is an expectation that our friends know what we're feeling and thinking at any given time. This is actually listed as a maladaptive cognitive thing based on my training, right? We are Okay, so obviously I work in energy and the field of psychics, but maladaptive cognition or something like that is where we think we've got a crystal ball and we know what people are thinking and saying and all the rest of it without them actually telling us. There's too much room for error there. And I think that empathy, expecting your friends to know intuitively what you feel, is pretty loaded and potentially an unrealistic expectation of your friendships. I would say that you need to be able to communicate your feelings to your friends as opposed to expecting your friends to know what you're thinking and feeling at any time. Then the next issue that I have with this thing, with this description, is their confidence is contagious, right? So what are we expecting from our friends here? Does this mean that we only feel confident when we're around them, or that if they're a confident person, that we associate with them because we suck the life force out of them? Does that make us an energy parasite, What, we only have friends because they make us feel better? Goodness me, I don't like that as a description, because according to Better Up, apparently it does, because their description also goes along with, they make you feel better when you're with them on your burned out days. They make you laugh, right? Where is the independence in this? Where is the supporting a person to be able to feel and emote and self-sustain individually as an independent person? I have a lot of issues with this particular description. All right, they don't judge you; they just want you to be happy. Well, fair enough. That's a great quality. We will all want to think that our friends think highly of us, don't we? Realistically, and don't we all want friends that are honest enough that will tell us when they think, based on their values, that we're about to make a mistake, or at least point it out to us so that we can consider it as part of our decision making. Now, I'm not sure that I want a friend, you might be different, that says you must do what is right for you because it's your happiness is the most important thing, right? I want a friend, or my preference is for a friend that will say something like, I want you to be happy, but I'm wondering, have you thought about the possible consequences and implications if you choose to do X and Y, or to these people if you take this course? Pointing out pitfalls is not necessarily a negative judgment. Now, as for the little section on you want your friends to be low maintenance, my God, that one was just breathtaking for me. I don't disagree entirely with it, but it seems to be a very selfish, actually, expectation of friendships where basically it infers that, we might be too busy to be a friend to them, but that's okay because when we need a friend, based on this description, when we need a friend and when we're feeling low, we're going to go and call up our friends, and we're not high maintenance, apparently, by this description, when we're emotionally needy, but they are. So it's kind of like saying to me that this description is all about, it has to work for me with no regard for how can I be a friend to this person. There's no balance in the relationship. And this is why I've put the scales on there, because I see friendship, and certainly with empowerment theory, as one where there is a balance within the friendship. Now, that doesn't mean to say that somebody's sitting there with a chalkboard going, well, I gave you 10 minutes on the phone, so now it's 10 minutes for me, right? Friendships do balance themselves out, but I don't think a good friend is going to turn around and say, oh, no, you're a little high maintenance. You're asking too much at the moment. You're not as much fun as you used to be. You're getting a bit serious because life has had a few problems for you, It has to be give and take is the way I see it. But onto another more healthy description of friendship, but one that still has, as far as I am concerned, a few issues with it. And this is where you are invited to feedback under here of what you consider to be the points of a good friend, because everybody's got a different value system. What one person thinks is important, another one won't. So let's have a look at what the next person's got to say. So the big issue that I had with Better Up is that I felt that it was disempowering. It was more of an enablement approach to strength building, if you like, basically keeping people stuck where they're at rather than building them up to be more than what they are and to achieve their own version. A conscious rethink, I think, has got a healthier approach to friendship, but we need to put it into perspective, because I'm going to put the link in the description, and if you go to this website, she's got 25 points of what a good friend is, which can be a bit like, well, really? If I had a mate and she expected me to adhere to all 25 of those, I think that we probably wouldn't be friends for very long, because I would disappoint them. Because it's just not humanly possible to be all things to all people all the time. So putting this into perspective, what this lady did, and she says this on her blog as well, that she reflected on one of her besties. In fact, I think it's her bestie, and what makes that relationship a bestie, because she's known the lady for 20 years. So she put down 25 points of the positives of their friendship and association. So that's just giving it a little bit of context. So let's unpack the differences with her definition as opposed to Better Up, right? First of all, kindness is her number one point. She says, but it's more than the kindness of a I'll stand with you variety. She said it's rather a case of they'll give you the shirt off their back, and a good friend will make sure that both of your needs are tended to. So there's no need for sacrifice with this, right? They will make sure that you're both tended to, so there's never a need for either of you to greet the world half naked, right? I have no issue with this. I see that one as sharing and caring. The next one she says is honesty. Another of the main qualities of a good friend is that they will let you know when they're hurt by you. No crystal ball involved, no trying to feel or outthink the person. They will let you know if they become confused by something you've said or done. They will let you know if they see you doing something foolish. And they have the capacity to tell when you're hiding something. They might not mind read you, but they know when you're not being your fully authentic self. So I actually really like that. I think that particular point is very empowering, and it also refers to the giving and taking between friendships, because a friend can be honest and can tell you stuff that a stranger can't, because they will deliver it more sensitively, because they don't want to hide behind the whole business of, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, so I lied to you. Good friends share. They share even the pain, this is what she says, and discomfort, right? Discomfort enters everywhere in life, and I personally would be dishonest to pretend it avoids friendship. I can't remember if she said that or if I just agree with it, actually. But my point is that everything grows. Out of discomfort we grow. So if we have a friendship and it reaches a point of discomfort or strain or tension, and they will invariably do that, if they are a good friend and if you are a good friend, you two will communicate it together, work through it, and retain your friendship. It doesn't always happen though, let's be real, not everybody's willing to do that. The other point is, she says, and once again this is empowering, that a good friendship includes individuality, which they aren't trying to become you. Sometimes you can see those friendships where they wear the same dress, the same clothes, get the hair cut the same way and all the rest of it. They're basically trying to be each other in many ways. It's okay to have similar tastes, but what she makes the point of is that good friends support you to be real to yourself. What else? You may have separate dreams and goals, right? And you may have different temperaments, but sometimes you have similarities as well. So friends are not necessarily mirrors of each other, and the individuality allows a person to pull away from that friendship, to step back for a while, to reflect and rejuvenate their own sense of self before they come back to the friendship. So this is another really good point. That's about remaining authentic, definitely an empowering approach to friendship. In regard to being adventurous, she says it doesn't necessarily mean mountain climbing or bungee jumping. Thank God for that, because I wouldn't be good at that. She says basically it's a desire and willingness to experience the world in a shared way, doing things that are new and different, and sometimes taking risks, take my hand, let's go for a walk and see what's out there, so there's an adventurous level aspect to it. Playful friends play with us, right? They make us laugh, she says, at inopportune moments, which is quite true. When the world is pretending to be a serious place, I actually would put that into sometimes you're really good friends. We can laugh at the black stuff of life. If you've had some horrible experiences, I mean, not everybody can do it, but somebody who understands where you've been through, they may have been through it themselves, you can just crack a funny at something that other people would be highly offended by. And I've known this within my work. I recall a psychologist years and years ago telling me that I had an inappropriate sense of humour, and I thought, well, what do you want? Some of us make the choice to laugh, at our problems, while others, just to be clear on that, I don't always laugh at my problems or the challenges that I face, but there are times, depending on the company now, I learned from that when to make a joke of my hardships and when to not, when to just be quiet. Okay, so the other thing that this lady says is good friends are protective of you, but not in a self-interested or possessive way. I'm just looking at the notes. They'll do it often without realising they're doing it. And it can be a form of shielding you from impending harm or even protecting you from yourself. So that could be the advice of saying to somebody, look, are you really sure that what you're planning to do is wise, because I see risks associated with it? Or it might even be a case of they hear somebody speaking badly about you and they will stand up and say, no, you're wrong. It's all contextual. Trustworthy, she says. Now, I would say that this goes across everybody's description of friendship, but I'm not going to talk about what makes trustworthiness here because I'm going to dedicate a few slides specifically to trustworthiness because it's such a big subject. And when I was at university, we had to spend about 8 hours looking at trust. So it's not something that you can just look at in a couple of seconds. Nurturing, I don't actually agree with this one, but each to their own. I would rather have a friend that turns around and says to me, I don't drink, by the way, not anymore, because life has moved on. When I was younger, though, I certainly did enjoy a bit of a drink and a good party. But rather than have somebody hold my hair back while we call it driving the bus here in Australia, while you over the toilet bowl throwing up, I would actually rather have a friend that has I was going to say a rude word then, who has the strength to turn around and say to me while I'm drinking, do you think you need to slow down? That would be my preference rather than have somebody sitting beside me holding my hand, stroking me and holding my hair back so I don't vomit on myself. Okay, for her another one, but I'm not saying that that's not a good friend that wouldn't do that. Okay, if they're going to do that, they're kind. So then the other one is the listening, right? A good friend will listen to all your hopes, fears, questions, dreams, foolishness, musings, prattlings and more, not out of obligation because they genuinely care for you. They're not your therapist. They're not sitting there quietly listening, but they're listening. And because each of us are own, right, or are different, have our different values, for me, I would say it's not just that they listen there. I would say that they discuss, you share, you have a conversation and you feed back and forth with each other. To me, that's what a good friend would be when it comes to listening. Helpful, right, okay, if you're tired, they'll take on your load. I'm really not sure about that because we live in a day where everybody's got their own burdens, where they get tired and fatigued. But at the same time, if you've got a friend, so to me, I wouldn't put this one as not being a friend. I would put this as, if my friends did this, I'd just be so grateful, but I would never expect it, right? Particularly if you got unwell and one of them said, oh my God, I'm going to run over and cook dinner for you. Okay, brilliant friend, right? What else is there? Actually, I'll stop on that one and I will let you go and have a look at that website and go and work out what you think relates to you and do your Googling around, well, what is a good friend? What are the attributes of a good friend? And come to your own conclusions. And I'm going to give you something in a minute, we'll move on to the moral compass, which is about shared values. So the important part, big sigh there, sorry about that, for when we go to the next stage of assessing our friendships, before we can assess whether or not our friendships are healthy for us, we have to take a look at our own personal values and what is important to us. And this is why I have been looking or showing you guys the definitions. And this is why I would also be encouraging you to share or to search for your own definitions, find your own meanings of what friendship means to you. What does it look like? Get a bit of an idea there. And then from there, you look at, well, what is important to me? Now, I've put respect up because I think that is something that everybody wants. In a good friendship, it has to be respectful and mindful. But the difference is that we don't all describe respect the same way. So you would look at that, well, we build our moral compass, which is basically our personal values. Now, I'm going to reiterate here that once you have formed your moral compass, and it should actually have about anywhere between 7 to 10 points on it, right? You don't load it up and give it 25, because the 7 to 10 points are going to be what you must have within your relationships for them to be able to come into your inner circle and get close to you, right? As I said before, nobody's going to be able to meet all of a person's wants and needs, but there are some vital characteristics for all of us that must be met for these people to get close to us. So respect is going to be up there right at the top. But what does respect mean for you? Does respect mean that, well, I've just put up here, not being sworn at, not yelled or called unkind names, not being physically or emotionally abused, because they are very overt ones, right? But other people might put down there, respect is about having permission asked before disclosures are made around confidences, or respect might be being included in decision making. It's all contextual. So you've got to look at the type of the relationship and what respect might mean in that relationship. Okay, so you're going to expect a different form of respect from different people in different scenarios. So you might want to do a personal values for your different types of relationships. But either way, coming back to the moral compass, this will show you what your personal values are and those things that you are unwilling to compromise. And generally speaking, you're unwilling to compromise it because it becomes harmful to you, right? So that, goodness me, I am leading, as always, I'm leading somewhere with this. So what I'm going to say is, trust me, nah, not really. What I'm going to say is go through this exercise, give yourself about a week, which is good because I'm going to load part 2 next week, when we will look at other aspects of how to manage your friendships and associations, and you will need time to consider this. Now, the other reminder I must make, when you do your personal values statement or your moral compass, it is private and confidential and never to be shared. I mean, if you have a good mate and you want to phone them up and say, I'm actually looking at my values and I'm trying to think, what is important to me? What do I react to? Well, a good way of measuring it is, when do I react, actually? Well, if somebody yells and screams at me, I'm, by the way, just hypothesizing here. This is not the reality. For you, it might be, well, when somebody yells at me, I yell back at them, and then I feel bad and I beat myself up because I say stuff I don't mean. And so that becomes harmful. That's harmful to you. That's harmful to them, right? If you say stuff that you don't mean when you're heated and angry, that's very hurtful to them. And then you feel guilty. So it's harmful to you as well. So it would be, okay, I need to put myself in a situation where I can outline my boundaries. This is, all part of the exercise, where I say to them, look, I don't respond well to being sworn at or yelled at. It's not healthy. Look, we all know this with this one. It's not healthy. I don't feel kind. It doesn't support me to be the best version of myself. Don't use those words. It's so nauseating word salad these days. But something like that in your own words. I don't find it helpful to be sworn at or yelled at when I do things. I would rather that you take the time to explain to me what I've done wrong and how I can improve to meet your standards, right? But when you're doing your moral compass, it's more than that. Okay, so hopefully this has defined it. It's you put your value there, like this, respect, right? You explain what respect is to yourself. You nut it out. You find the description for it. And then you ask yourself, am I treating myself with respect? Do I get angry with myself? Do I use angry words against myself? Am I disrespecting myself? Am I harming myself with my words, right? Right? So you would then work through that. Then you look at the other part of, well, how do I treat others? Do I yell and swear at people or call them names when I'm frustrated or angry? And if you do, right, you can see straight away, hang on a moment, not only do I not respect myself, I'm treating other people with disrespect. And if I want to be treated with respect, then I need to manage and monitor my own behavior. Okay, so these are all examples of how we do it. Now, the thing that is the most important thing is that you never ever share. Once you've sorted out this moral compass and this is your personal values, you may need to pull it out and have a look at it from time to time to remind yourself of your personal values. In fact, it's a really good tool for when the boundaries are starting to flex. If you've watched that boundaries video, the link is going to be in the description if you haven't, right? When the boundaries start to get porous and you're not sure what you should be doing, you can come back and take a look at your moral compass, your personal values, and that will remind you when you need to strengthen them or when you need to actually negotiate them downwards if they're a bit rigid. But anyway, these are the benefits of the moral compass. Now, the reason why I'm saying that you don't share it, you never ever share it with anybody unless you trust them implicitly. And even then, you might not share it with them anyway, because the bottom line is, once you've worked out these values, what's important to you, if you publicize them and if you let everybody know that, that can be where an unethical person can exploit your vulnerabilities, because in a way, your personal values also reflects your vulnerabilities. There'll be a reason why these are so important to you. For example, and I'm quite transparent about this, I have very little respect for people, particularly men, that are violent towards women and children. And I'm sorry, I realise that most of them have had a terrible upbringing themselves, but for me that has become the like, I will not tolerate it and I will not accept it. Now, interestingly though, because I have worked in the field of, oh my God, what do they call it, community services and that, I have actually had to support DV perpetrators, and I can set aside my, if you like, political biases and judgments within that setting, but I wouldn't have somebody who is violent and abusive as part of my social circle now. So I don't care who knows that. I'm prepared to stand publicly, loudly and proudly about that. I wouldn't say that person, I'm not going to be nasty to that person. I would be encouraging them to get help, okay? That would be the thing, to get some really good therapy and do some behavioural change, because I have faith that they can change with support and treatment. But until they're ready to do that, they're outside of my circle. Okay, so that then becomes my vulnerability, because I've actually just loudly and proudly put that out there. I recognise that a DV perpetrator, quite often what they want is a powerful, strong woman that they can break down, because this is part of their psyche. So they might come into my circle and pretend to be anti, you know what I mean, play the role, they'll play the game to achieve their agendas. It's not going to happen because I'll see through it, but you know what I mean, that's what it might look like in the past. So if you had the time and the inclination, you could actually take the exercise on the previous slide through and look at your values and your moral compass in relation to your love relationships. Of course, you would bear in mind that there are different types of love and different ways of expressing love, and where the people in your life that you love, they may express differently to you. It doesn't mean that they're not loving you, it just means that they have a different way of showing it. And the part of how you can determine the health of those relationships is actually to look at the video that we've got on the language of love, because everything actually is based on communication. So you can have people with differing priorities, but you can manage those priorities usually. Okay, so that's something that you would have to establish for yourself. So as previously stated, because I come from an empowerment perspective, I don't tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing. I just suggest to them that they look at certain things and give consideration to them as part of making their own decisions and choices. The other thing too is I wouldn't start automatically based on your initial explorations of reviewing your relationships and friendships while you're establishing your values. I'd be a little cautious about who I might share that with. That would be a recommendation, and I wouldn't be taking any actions as to shifting people out at this point in time. I would be looking at the content that I've provided here as an opportunity for reflection and consideration, because there are other things that we can do as part of establishing who we allow to be in our most intimate circles beyond the stuff that we've talked about today. And that includes defining trust and respect and that kind of thing. And that's going to happen in the next video as part of this series. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you to think about the content that I've delivered today, and I shall meet you in a week. And do you know, the other thing too is I'm going to put in the description a link to perhaps a reflective framework. So I guess the content I'm giving you today is stuff that if we were going to talk about it from a spiritual perspective, it would be a case of retreating, going into the cave, doing some consideration, some reflection, some evaluation before we actually come out and make any decisions and take any actions. This is purely a contemplative activity. And I'll meet you on the next slide. Take care. Next slide. Next video. Take care, my friends. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye for now.